So my name is Yurit Valise, and I'm going to be talking about the attendance laws here in Indiana. How many of you struggled or are struggling with your attendance by missing like a day or two? Just raise your hands. That's already, even the teacher raised her hands, right? Back in 2024 and 2025, they changed the laws so then every single day, like Indiana attendance laws, every day equals 4 missing attendance for every class, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4. But that means that because we miss 4 in just one day, that would be like, if you missed 5 days, that would be 25 missing absences in your record. That right there is already for expulsion and stuff. Here in Lawrence Central High School, we have it so then if you miss 5 days, they'll give us a warning. Give us 10 and they'll call or maybe just give you some form of detention, right? 15 days would be call, maybe like suspension for like 3 days or however long they seem fit for you. And then like 25 days is period, you're gone, you're done. You're not even in the school anymore. So WFYI or PBS has said that Indiana has passed 2 laws changing the attendance laws. They were aiming to improve because ever since in COVID, students stopped coming. Of course, we can see why they've changed it. Since COVID has happened, students have stopped coming along. They've been doing online, but even then they haven't been going into class. They haven't been doing their homework. They haven't been doing their test scores. The test scores have been dropping immaculately. So in order to do that, they've had to restrict those attendance laws. We can see why, of course. I mean, yeah, a lot of us still struggle with it, and don't get me wrong, it's improving a lot of student attendance. But then what about others? They changed those laws so then let's say, you have a doctor's note. Of course, that's an excuse. Give it in, they'll show it. But here's the thing, a lot of people don't go to the office when they're sick. All they can do is just check their temperature and it's like 102. And it's like, well, I can't go, I feel terrible. And they still want you to go to the doctors so then you can get a note. Here's the thing. When it comes to going to the doctors and having to sit there hours on end into the waiting room just so then you can get a note saying, hey, I feel sick, that's wasting a lot of resources and a lot of your time. Parents have to come and go and leave their jobs, which also implying taking away their hours and how much they're getting paid. So that's taking away financial resources. Plus, don't get me wrong, doctors are really expensive. $10,000 for a child, $600 for an EpiPen. That's saying a lot, right? For a checkup, that's probably $200 itself. Getting a doctor's note just for that. See how much your insurance is covering for that stuff. We all don't have financially to be able to do that. So of course, in our minds, we don't go at all. We're saying, hey, we can miss 1 day, except 1 day becomes 4 absences. You miss another day because you get sick or because you have a family emergency, except family emergencies now are not an excuse. So there it is. Now you have another day. Now that's 8 absences. Even more of those, and then you're done. We have 180 days in this school. That's how many we have. You miss 2 or just 5, right? And that shouldn't be nothing compared to 180 days, which would be you're done for. But of course, we can see that with changing the attendance laws, they have helped for schools to get better test scores and for the teachers to have more students in the classroom. It has helped a lot, mostly with building a bigger community. That kind of stuff is really important, mostly with people moving in and then people having to find better schools. Helps our school become much more of a greater community chance where people would want to go to, with less growing test scores and people having to skip classes or failing classes and having to redo them. It has helped them in a bigger run, except for the rest of us where we struggle very much so because we miss 1 day, we're sick, and we can't have anything like that. So I am so please, I let you think about it. Think about how you want to change and how we can help and change those laws again, and like maybe have it so then it'd be a little bit helpful for the rest of the students who don't have like the financial resources to be able to go to the doctors because they're sick, or because there's always going to be some form of emergency that not all of us can change. So in conclusion, I believe that those attendance laws that here in Indiana we've changed should have changed in some, or like should improve it, so then most of the students here can have that mercy of having to like not struggle with attendance and like having to stay at school mostly when we're sick and like throwing up and we have to suck it up. That's my speech. Feedback.
Do you feel like with schools not being the ones who make the law and like being, like the top law and whatever, with them still having to abide by the rules of the government, do you think that they still do a bad job of being on the side of the students and like not seeing their vision and trying to help us?
No, yes. I've talked to Dr. James about our attendance laws because she's the one who mostly does it. But when we tell them, hey, like we have so many problems and we struggle sometimes with like, school, sometimes we all want like that one mental day off. But that one mental day off will give us stress later on because that's 4 missing attendances. So it's like, so no, they don't think about students there for a hot minute. They do think about, hey, how do our test scores look like? How are we graded as a school in general? But because of that, now we have stressed students going into like therapy and like still having to come to school even when they're sick or throwing up or in pain. So no, I don't think they do believe or think about the students in that sense.
Do you think that modern schools like Lawrence Central itself prioritizes the money they make and them having a higher rank amongst the other schools than they do about caring for the students?
Yes, a lot of schools today, like Ben Davis, Avon, here, Lawrence North, we do mostly look for like, hey, how are we graded overall? How can we benefit everything else for us, right? Except now that like we have those tiny major problems with the students who are like, oh, we're stressed. We don't we don't want to do this anymore. We're giving up a whole lot easier because we don't have those days where we can just break it off.
Do you think this ties to those schools being in more urbanized areas, so they already have to compete with the more, I'll say, pristine schools?
No, yes, mostly because with bigger communities now, it's like, oh, we're trying to get more students into here, but because of that, there's like bigger schools like Ben Davis or Avon where like, it's like, oh, they're doing so much better though, so we have to fix how we're doing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, they forgot to look at the students on that end. Yeah.
Sorry, I have one more. How do you feel about excused absences not being excused? And how do you feel about it still counting against you?
So I struggled actually the first semester with like unexcused absences because I was always like, I'm a foster kid and I always have meetings with DCS people and like having to go to church, having to go to court, having to like meet up with like all of these judges and having to like look up through like so many financial things. It's that like most of the time I have to go back to the school and be like, hey, we have to find some form of evidence where I was, so then like, they don't count it, but still in that sense they'll be like, oh, but we need like some form of note, we need some form of signed signature, and it's like not every single time we can find something like that, and it can like, hurt the students. The student can be like an A+ student, could be B's, A's, C's, they're not failing, they're actually doing pretty good, but there it is, attendance, now they look like a trouble student. Now they look like, oh, this student needs to be looked at, like they're not doing so much. So it really, overall, it hurts the student in multiple ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, in a sense, with like, like, oh, 1 missed attendance and now they look like they're failing. So now they do want to fail, get that like mental situation. So yes, it does affect the students a lot. And like,
A lot of schools are funded based on their attendance rate, and I wonder, do you think that a lot of schools are doing this with their hand behind their back, or being twisted behind their back, and they really don't want to do this?
No, yeah, that's where that's where schools are, like, you know, hey, I can see why they're changing those laws. And yes, of course, it helps a lot of us with, like, you know, not missing school and stuff. They're trying to fix, like, how they're getting funded, like, how teachers are getting paid, how they're, like, getting paid with all these programs here. But it's like, now that we have, like, now we fix one problem, there's multiple other problems. So, but yes, they're fixing it, and we can see why.
With that being in mind, like what you said about the money, do you feel like this negatively impacts the school or like students more? Like, for example, students would be like with their consequences and stuff.
It would negatively impact the students a little bit more than the school. The school is doing this overall for, like, funding, for, like, over near future. But students, though, are getting more stressed. They're getting more, like, they're, like, you know, they're giving up more because it's like, oh, I have to stay here every single day, and there's not that one day we can just rest, you know?
Getting more sick.
Or everybody's been sick, you know?
All right, last one, just maybe move on.
During term 1, I missed like a week of school, and I was ready to go back in, but my teacher literally turned me out the door because I had gotten suspended for missing school, so I had to miss more school. So do you think it's a little counterintuitive that punishments for missing school is missing school?
Is missing school, yeah, that shouldn't be it. Like, you know, I feel like if you're missing school, you should probably, like, hey, have, like, some, like, extra time to, like, go with that student and be like, hey, maybe you're not gonna stay in the classroom, but, like, stay with somebody else so then you could, like, catch up on that work. Yeah, so then, like, you know, you're not, of course, disturbing everybody else because that's one of their main priorities. But you still wanna catch up with the student. Now they missed 3 more days because they're suspended. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, very helpful.
Welcome.
Punishment is missing school.
Wait, that-
It's
wait,
missing
wait.
school.